Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Zishan Ali. Welcome to my channel Project Control Aspirants. Today we are going to learn about risk management. What is risk and how we manage those risks. So what is a risk? A risk is an uncertainty about a future event or condition which may have a positive or negative impact on a project. So basically, a risk is unwanted or unforeseen events or condition which may happen in future, and it may have a positive or negative impact on a project. If it's a positive impact, we call it as an opportunity, and if it has a negative impact, we call it as a risk. Today we are going to discuss about risk, means negative impact. If a event or if a particular event or condition will have a negative impact on a project, how we are going to manage it. So basically there are three steps to manage the risk. First is managing and prioritizing the risk. We should prioritize that which risk we should address immediately and which we can address later, which we'll discuss in the upcoming slide. Second step is how we are going to respond to those risks. Once we prioritize those risks, how we are going to respond to those risks. And the third is decision analysis. What decision we should make, whether we should go ahead with the risk or we should avoid that, or we should go ahead with the project. We should, based on the risk response planning and the total effect, we can decide whether to go ahead or not. So these are the basically three steps in risk management. We'll go one by one. First one is managing and prioritizing project risk. As a project manager or as a risk engineer or manager, you will come while executing a project, you will come across a different risk at a time, like 10 or 12 risks at a time. So as a risk engineer or as a project manager, you must know that how to deal with those risks. You cannot address all the risk at a time. It is not practically possible. So you have to prioritize your risk, that which risk you have to act or address immediately and which risk you can deal later. So how we can prioritize the risk? So to prioritize your risk, you must segregate your risk in different categories. There are 5 different categories of risk. One is technical, performance, project management, organizational and external. So we'll go one by one what are those categories. So technical risk. Technical risk include technology failure or unavailability, like the server got down, internet crashed, or the computer shut down, there is a hanging in the computer. There are a lot of technical issues, a virus attack. So these are those risks are categorized in technical risk. Second is performance risk. You have set up productivity or performance as a baseline. In the baseline or in the initial plan, you have put a productivity or set of skill for all your staff and workmen. However, during execution, there is always a chance of underperformance or unproductivity. That is a very so in such case, those risks which dealt with the underperformance or underproductivity of contractor or the laborers, we categorize it as performance risk. Third is project management. Project management risk include inaccurate time and cost estimate, ineffective communication and poor relationship with the suppliers. So these such risks which deal with the in the initial plan itself, you have not make a proper planning. You have not considered you not estimated the proper time or cost to complete the project. That will come as a project management risk. It will categorize a project management risk, that in the initiation of in the planning stage you have not considered the estimated cost or schedule for the time for the project. So that will categorize as the project management. Organizational risk categories. Here, like suppose a big firm will have a subdivisions, and it may happen that your division or your IC, the as per the organization, your IC or your division is not that priority, or the project or the work you are doing is not so much useful for them. So they will not extend their support to address or they will not help you or they will not guide you as an organization. So there that risk is also there, and we call it as an organizational risk. Last is external risk. External risk basically deal with the weather condition. Suppose a drought came or a flood came, or there is a labor change in the labor law, political legislation, some labor strike happened. So these all come as a external category, external risk categories. So once you categorize the risk in these five categories, then you can prioritize that then you can find out what is the priority of those risks. That will again come to know that how exactly we can, once you categorize your risk in these five categories, you can calculate the priority of the risk. Now to make it more clear, let me give you an example. ABC Corporation is a company is considering to develop and marketing a new electrical device. So a company ABC Corporation is planning to launch a new electrical device. Now the project manager Mr. Roy is very as one of the team member I have mentioned a number of potential risks that may threaten the project. While starting that electrical device, his team member told them there are a number of potential risks associated with this product, and those team members are mostly concerned about four risks. One is increase in component price, second is delay in research and development, third is takeover by another company, and fourth is stakeholder goes out of business. So while launching or while starting this new product, the project manager Mr. Roy found out through his team that these are the four risks associated with it. Now, as a project manager Mr. Roy should know that which risk he should address immediately and which he will have a high impact or high threat to the completion of the project. So to prioritize this risk, he should get a realistic estimate of probability and impact. So these are the two main parameters to calculate the threat of a risk. One is probability and second is impact. Probability means what is the probability of this event or activity is happen, and what is the impact. Impact in terms of cost and impact in terms of time. So the Mr. Roy must go through all these four risks, and he should know what is exactly the probability of this risk and how much impact it will have. So first of all, Mr. Roy know the realistic estimate. To know the realistic estimate of these four risks, he he set with all his expert team, his risk team, the expert and the stakeholder teams discussed and gone through in detail and find out the probability of the first step, probability of those risks. We find out that increase in component price has a low probability, delay in research development has a high probability, takeover by another company again have a high probability, and supplier goes out of business has low probability. Now again he has to find out the impact of those risks. He find out the probability of those four risks. Accordingly, now again he has to find out the impact of those four risks. So he has to discuss again with his expert team, and he has found out that increase in component has a very high impact. Price increase and delay have a greatest impact on the competitiveness of the uh, competitors and form the highest priority and form them make them a very high priority risk. On the other hand, if ABC acquired by another company, that will not affect ABC specific product. Also, if one of the supplier goes out of business, there are several other options. So accordingly, he set his impact. So by going through and discussing, we find out that increase in component price and delay in research and development has very high priority or very high threat. So after going through and making all these details, tabulated all this detail, you can create Mr. I can create the risk matrix. We call it as a probability and impact risk matrix. These are the very what I'm in this matrix we have only put the probability and impact, but there are other parameters also. But since it is a very we are not discussing in so detail, so I'm just stick to the probability and impact matrix. However, I will make a different video to further elaborate that this particular matrix will have so many other components, and we can calculate the priority on various other parameters that we'll discuss in some other video. So to make it impact and little less complicated, we will go through the probability and impact matrix. So in probability and impact matrix, based on the probability and impact, we can update or populate this matrix. So if you see, delay and research and development is a high impact and high probability threat. So we kept it in high quadrant. The first quadrant we call it as high quadrant. So it has the highest threat on the project completion. On the other hand, supplier goes out of business is going in low quadrant. It has a very low risk. The remaining two is in between, takeover by another company is low impact but high probability, and the same way increase in component price is low probability but high impact. So this is a non-numerical approach. Here we have just put the risk in the probability matrix, but we don't know in terms of quantum, in terms of quantity, how much it will impact. So what Mr. Rai can do, he can further go in detail and he find out the exact impact in terms of quantity, in terms of numbers, which indicate the threat of these four risks. So once he sit and he find out along with his expert team is increase in component price have a probability of 0.2 is 20%, and it will have impact of 0.9. So concurrent impact, what we call as a concurrent impact, means impact of probability and impact of the threat of probability and threat of impact. Concurrent threat is P into I is 0.18. Accordingly, delay in research and development is 0.72. Takeover by another company is 0.21, and supplier goes out of business is 0.12. So delay in research and development has a concurrent threat of 0.72. So that make it as a first priority. The first priority to address the risk is delay in research and development. We cannot go through except that delay in research and development. We should must take steps to avoid such delays. So this is having the highest priority because it is having the highest threat 0.72. So one more thing apart from that is any risk is not permanent. A risk assistance and prioritizing one way or at one stage of a project, but as a condition change, either the estimated impact or probability of the risk event can also change. The change is known as risk trend. So the one more thing I like to add is a risk is not permanent. It varies from time to time. Suppose a risk is very high priority in January, the probability or the threat of that particular risk may be very low at in month of June. Suppose the labor shortage is a very high priority or high threat in January, but it may change in labor shortage. Suppose here you see the first priority in January is labor shortage. However, when it comes to month of June, the labor shortage priority come to a number 2. So no risk is permanent; it change from the time, and that is what we call as risk trend. So your risk response plan or risk response plan should also change. Your risk management plan should also change with time. If you make a risk management plan in the month of January, it should keep on updating from time to time, because a risk which is a very high threat or first priority in the month of January, it may change in month of June. So what we learn now that there are three methods of prioritizing the risk. One is the probability, you have to find out the probability of the risk. Second, to find out the impact of the risk, impact in terms of cost, impact in terms of time or schedule, and then the concurrent of this probability and impact. By calculating these three, we can prioritize the risk which will have the highest P into I value should become as the first priority, and which will have a lowest P into I value will come as the least priority. Now once you prioritize your risk, once you go through calculated all the pi into I value, and you prioritize which is first, which risk is first, which is risk is second. Now you have to respond to those respond to those risks. Those which are first priority, you have to immediately respond to those risks. So you have to make a plan to how to respond to those risks. So there are 4 ways to respond to a negative risk or risk, you can say. First is avoidance, second is transfer, third is mitigation, and fourth is acceptance. So let's go one by one. What is avoidance? Avoidance is one way of responding to a risk. This involves altering your project plan to eliminate the risk. So avoidance is a one way of responding to risk. Means here you change your original plan. You know that there is a risk likely to happen for this particular work or this particular event. So what you can do, you can change your initial plan and you can go to a other way, and you can avoid such risk. There are 2 main benefits from this type of response. First, you don't have to worry about the risk anymore. Now as you have changed your initial plan, you are going to alternate way. You know that this risk is not going to no more threat to your project completion. And now as you have avoided this risk, you have better clarity that you are definitely going to complete your project in so and so time. So this is one way of avoiding the responding to a risk, that you are avoiding that risk. You are making an alternate plan. You are not going with the initial plan. Since you know that if you go with your initial original plan, it will definitely come through the risk. You make an alternate way. Second response is transfer. Sometimes it is better to risk transfer is another response to a risk. There is a way. This is where you provide for someone else to take responsibility for the risk and its consequences. Sometimes risk transfer is appropriate when the consequences of accepting a risk are greater than what you are willing to accept, and someone else will cover the risk at a reasonable price. So in transfer, in this way of responding a risk is you transfer your risk to someone else, or third party or third agency or a subcontractor. Like for example, you buy a car and there is always a risk of damage or accident, or your car may get theft. You cannot take care, or you cannot monitor your car or your vehicle all the times. So in that case, what you can do, you go for a third party insurance. In case if your vehicle got theft or you met with an accident, they will take care of that damages. They will pay for those damages. So you have to pay a small amount to avoid such risk. Another example, suppose you are executing a piping job and you find out that initially you plan to do that piping fabrication work in house, but however during the course of time or the initially itself you find out that your manpower is not enough to complete that fabrication work on time. So what you can do, you can subcontract a part or package of that fabrication to other contractor. In that way you are transferring your risk to complete the project on time. You are giving that portion of the work to other subcontractor and they will execute that job for you. So you are avoiding the transfer of delay in completion of the project or additional cost by transferring that work to someone else. So what are the benefit of transferring that risk is your financial risk is covered in terms of a known price. So now you are no more bothered that you are assured that you will complete your project, or your there is no more threat by transferring a part of or a complete part of the job to someone else. The only drawback is that now suppose if you insured your car and for 2 years or 3 years but no major accident or no theft happen, still you have to pay that premium for the insurance. So only only drawback of this particular risk response plan is, even if this risk not happen in future, you have to pay that minimum amount. Third is the risk mitigation plan. That is the most common way of responding a plan. Risk mitigation is reducing the probability or impact of a risk to an acceptable threshold limit. So you have to make an alternate plan or make a contingency so that if this risk happen, you have enough additional resource or additional price to address that risk. That is, we call it as a mitigation plan. For example, if a hurricane unexpectedly threatens a construction site machinery and material, so as a mitigation, it can be moved to a safe place to reduce the impact of the hurricane. Suppose you are doing a construction work or a machinery work and there is a probability of a hurricane happen in future. So what you can do as a mitigation, you can shift your machinery or your work to a place where that hurricane not impact, and in that way you can mitigate that risk. So risk mitigation reduce the impact of an unavoidable risk. The risk which you cannot avoid, which you cannot transfer, such risk you can use a mitigation plan to reduce the impact of that threat of that particular risk to an acceptable limit. Now again, that risk mitigation cannot rule out the risk, like in terms of risk avoidance or risk transfer. Here you cannot rule out the risk. It will always be there. But definitely, if you are working on it, the probability of that threat, probability of the risk or the threat of the risk will be reduced. And the fourth way of responding risk is acceptance. That you are not making a plan or you are not putting an effort to respond or address that risk. That is, we call it accepting the risk. That suppose our risk acceptance is the fourth type of risk response. This is where you do little or nothing to eliminate or reduce the risk or its consequences. It is a decision to deal with whatever happen, whenever it happen, let it happen. You are not going to make any plan or any response plan to address such risk. Why it is? Because sometimes the probability or the impact is so low that is not worth to put effort to address that risk. So in such cases, if it is coming like, if it is as we have seen that one particular risk is coming in low quadrant, so it will not have a much threat. Even it happen, it will not affect your project in terms of cost or schedule, or the high probability is very less. So what we can do, we can just accept that risk and we go ahead without making or no plan for that particular risk. So risk management is a matter of balance. Choosing to accept a risk is often a way of mitigating an equilibrium. The response acknowledge that some things are not worth worrying about. That's what I told. That sometimes it's not worth worrying about that such particular risk because its impact or its threat is very low. After all, if you try to prepare for everything, you won't get a project done. If you keep on thinking and keep on mitigating or keep on making a risk response fund for every event, you cannot probably you will not complete the project. So sometimes you have to take the risk and go ahead. While risk acceptance has its advantage, it can also be damaging. Suppose if you consider a risk is very low probability in terms of cost and impact and probability, however it turned out to be a very big impact. So there is always a chance that if you accepted a risk and it turned out that unexpected consequence, then it may damage your project and it will have a big threat to your project. So let me give you an example for risk acceptances. Suppose Alexander realizes that there is a risk of rain on the day of his mall celebration. For his mall celebration, there is a chance of rain to happen. However, when he consulted the weather bureau, he found out there is only a 3% chance of the rain. And even if it does rain, it will rain very light. It will be very light. So what Mr. Alexander found out that the chance of rain is 3%, that is very low probability, and the impact is also very low. So what he did, he accepted that risk and he has gone ahead. Same way, like Alexander considered the risk of the power outage. In case if there is a power outage, he didn't make a plan that he should make a generator or inverter to take care of that power outage, because he find out that the probability of power outage is very low. Now we came to know that prioritizing and managing the risk. Second, we find out how to respond to those risks. Now third part of your risk management is decision analysis. That based on the priority, based on the response, whether we should go ahead with that risk or not, whether we should put our money and effort to proceed with that project or not, that we call it as a decision analysis. So as a project manager, you are faced with important decision every day. Calculating the expected monetary value of a decision can help you to make the right choice. Expected monetary value, which we will discuss in further slide, that what is the expected monetary value. So based on the expected monetary value of the decision, which we should make that whether we should go ahead or not. Let's see what is expected monetary value. So let me to elaborate it and make it more clear, let's take an example. Mr. Roy as a businessman, he is planning for an outdoor flower sale, but he find out there is a chance of having a rain on that day, and if it is rain on that day of sale, he know that the sale will not go very well. In fact, he will probably lose money. On the other hand, if it is sunny day on that day, based on the last year experience, he will do very well. He will make good profit. So Mr. Roy, as a sales manager or a flower, you want to keep a flower sale, but you find out there is a chance of rain. If it rains and he put outdoor sale, he will lose money. If it is a sunny day, he will go make good money. So now what Mr. Roy did, he meet with the other committee members, and they have voiced the same concern about the weather. They don't want to go through, the other committee member also don't want to go through all the work on organizing the sale and still make loss. So the other committee members also told the same thing, that suppose if we put so much effort and we put outdoor sale and we find out that and it can turn out to be a rainy day, then we will definitely make a loss. On the other hand, some of the committee member told that if we put a indoor sale, we will not make much profit. On one of the committee members, so while discussing, we find one committee member told that sure people will come indoor if it is raining, so we will make some money. But if it is a sunny day, people are less likely to come inside to buy flowers. So one of the committee member told that suppose you put an indoor sale and if it rains, then definitely people will come indoor to buy a flower. However, if you put an indoor sale and it turn out to be a sunny day, no one is willing to come indoor because it's a sunny day. So Roy has considered a lot of information, including the value of maintaining the long tradition of the outdoor flower show. From a financial point of view, he has to think about probability of rain or sunshine and the amount of money the show is likely to make under the different weather conditions. So if Roy could determine what the result of a particular decision would be, his life would be easy. He could calculate the value of each decision and choose the one with the greatest value. While Roy cannot entirely certain, a good choice is to pick the one with the highest expected monetary value. So now Roy is confused, he is in ambiguity that what decision he has to make. So for that, to make it more clear, what you can do, you can calculate the expected monetary value of each event. So if you make a decision, it will be a summation of different events. I tell you how. So the EMV is the monetary value of a single event multiplied by the probability of that event. If you consider, like suppose if you make a decision that they make a decision of making a outdoor sale. This is your decision. So what are the different events for that decision? You make a outdoor sale and it is a sunny day. It's one event. If you make a outdoor sale and it's a rainy, it rained that day. That is another event. So these two events may happen because of your the decision you make will have two events as outcome. So to calculate the expected monetary value, you have to calculate the summation of these two events based on your decision. What are the events likely to happen? You have to add or sum up these events. So to calculate the EMV of a single event, you have to multiply the monetary value by the probability of that event. So I will not go through all this. I'll just okay. So Roy first he will calculate. He put a flower show outdoor, and it's a sunny day. Roy want to calculate the EMV of the flower show if he hold it outside and it's a sunny day. He estimated that he will make a profit of 8,000 an outdoor show, and the probability of after checking the local meteorological report, he find out that the probability of that day should be will be sunny is 40%. So the monetary value of this particular event is $8,000 and the probability is 40%. So the total expected monetary value is 8,000 into 40%, that is 3,200. So the probability of the event that he put a flower show outdoor and it is a sunny day is 3000. Expected monetary value of this particular event is 3200. Now the other event is if we put a outdoor sale and it's a rainy day. So Mr. Roy must also calculate the EMV of a flower show if we hold it outside and it is raining. Post experience, he find out that if it rains on a show held outside, he can expect a loss of $1,000. So after making the calculation, he find out that if he put a outdoor flower show and if it rain that day, he will make a loss of $1,000. And the probability if it rains is 60%. Since the probability of sunny day is 40%, so the probability of it rain on that day is 60%. So the expected monetary value is minus 1000, that is a loss, and probability is 60%. So if you put a flower show outside and it rain on that day, altogether he'll make a loss of minus 600. Means expected monetary value is 600. Now how to make a decision is, as I told, we have to sum up these two events, the expected monetary value of these two events. So by the summation of these two events is, if it's sunny day 3200 positive, rainy day minus 600. So altogether the EMV of the decision, not event, the EMV of the decision is 2600. EMV of a decision is summation of the event happened because of the decision. So altogether you find out that EMV of the decision is 2600. If you have a positive EMV for a decision, means you can go ahead, you can make a decision that yes, I can proceed or go ahead with flower show outside outside, taking our chances. So the EMV of the decision to hold the flower show outside is 2600. If Roy hold on outdoor sale with similar probabilities of weather conditions on many occasions, he can expect to make money in long run. So there is a chance he can make a profit out of this decision. So that is how we can calculate this is how we can make our decision based on the expected monetary value. So this is it. So as we discussed, just want to sum up that there are three stages in risk management. First is managing and prioritizing, second is risk response, and the third is decision analysis. Thank you very much.